Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy RapTRz here, bringing you another Paragon video. Today is going to be a video, it's going to be my final response to the video, the in-depth discussion that we had over a video that I released about a week ago called The Illusion of Elo. Basically in this video, if you haven't seen it, go check it out before you watch this one. Basically this one is just a response to that video and all the people who were commenting, all the different perspectives, and I just want to do like a final response, like a final kind of verdict to it. But anyways, this video was really impactful. We gained over 3,000 views in just a matter of a week. We had 228 comments, 110 likes, and 15 dislikes. It was even so impactful that even fellow Paragon YouTubers Baby Spine and The Real Homicide also made a follow-up video to this, which is really cool, and I really do appreciate them for discussing this topic as well. Their videos will be in the description below if you haven't checked them out. But anyways, basically we have this in-depth discussions to be able to draw out many opinions from everybody in the community. Whether you agreed, or whether you disagreed, I really do appreciate everybody who watched the video and put their 2 cents in there as well, because it does really mean a lot and allows us to make these follow-up final response videos to be able to kind of recap on what we think about this topic we were discussing about. Now, recalling back to the video, a lot of people said that it had like a lot of animosity towards the meta, and that was bashing meta heroes a lot, where in turn I was kind of trying to make the point that people who think the only way to win the game is by choosing meta heroes, and in turn if somebody else doesn't pick a meta hero on their team, then they will bash them just solely off that purpose. Now there's a lot of other opinions and a lot of other comments that we're going to go through right now. We're going to kind of break it down to see the logic and the psychology behind everything and what everybody was thinking, whether there was a different perspective or different questions that arose from that video. We're going to kind of break it down, give you my overview of that, and maybe some misunderstandings that were throughout the video. But basically the point of the video was that Elo creates toxic behavior for people that think the only way to win the game is by exploiting the meta, and that was the only point that I was gonna make. That was the only point, strictly how Elo, nothing else, just Elo, how that affects the gameplay or the community. Basically I was talking about how like lower people trying to climb up the rank, whether they're silver or gold, they think that the only way to win the game is by choosing those meta heroes, and in turn they bash other peoples for not choosing what is a quote-unquote meta. Now basically a lot of people were saying, is Elo actually the real problem though? It was brought up by this comment right here by Techno Monkey. Is Elo the problem though? I agree that Elo isn't a true indication of skill, but at the end of the day it is human nature to want to win, as you touch on in your video. This creates your meta regardless of whether there is Elo or not. I would say that the Elo system probably amplifies what is already there, but I think your problem comes from human nature and a currently unbalanced game. Given time, this problem will be diluted. A bigger pool of players and epics continual improvements / balancing should make for a more varied gameplay and a happier, less toxic community. First of all, I really like this comment because it actually changed and opened my mind a little bit to that actual problem. Is Elo, the actual problem? And he brings up a good point of saying how, the game is already unbalanced, and that in turn already creates frustration because some people think that more heroes are viable than others. And in certain top tier gameplay, you can't play the certain heroes you want because the game is unbalanced and it still needs improvement. And you still need to fix the ranking system, because right now the ranking system is still unofficial, and you get matched up with casual players and you get matched up with competitive players, and sometimes you go against 5 stacks, which can be really frustrating, like he says, because the game is unbalanced and it still needs a lot of improvements, and there needs to be a bigger pool of people to be able to to play with different amount of people. But anyways, it does bring a good point up that Elo does amplify this, and I do completely agree with that fact that Elo is not completely the problem of creating toxic behavior, but it does amplify it, because now you're worried about Elo and your rank, and you're also worried about losing and your frustration and wanting to win, and how you feel it's unfair for certain heroes, or if you feel like some heroes are not as valuable in other heroes, especially in top tier gameplay. So I do completely agree with the fact that Elo is not completely the problem, but Elo does amplify your frustration, and I feel like the best way to get rid or kind of loosen that toxic behavior is by not worrying about Elo, which was my point in the video, that you shouldn't worry about Elo. So this brings us to another concern that was brought up during the discussion, and it was, does Elo measure your skill to a certain extent? And this was brought up by Kashimadara. He says, Elo definitely isn't the end of all skill. I've seen high golds do worse than high silvers plenty of times, but I do think that it generally does place your tier. For instance, when you're playing silver, people don't even pick all the roles. You'll get people trying to double carry, you have no support, and you'll see all kinds of random builds. In gold, you'll see people start to actually picking team comps, playing good individually, but they still won't utilize their full potential, and a lot of times fail to synchronize with the team. The decks are more similar but have few differences. Then he goes on to say, in platinum, you'll see people team comboing every game. The games will be stalemates for extended periods of time due to no one taking unnecessary risk. People will not pick team comps but will counter other team comps and will have counter decks as well. As for diamond, I'd imagine these people have just fine-tuned the flow of game and mechanics for almost all the characters. Now, I do agree with the fact that some of those diamond tier players deserve to be there. You know, they're good, they're skilled, they have a good knowledge of the game, they know how to lane, they know how to, you know, get picks, they know how to rotate, they know how to do all that. And like I said in the last video, I'm not discrediting those people who are in top tier gameplay. Some people actually deserve to be there, you know, and some people actually deserve to be where they're at in their tier. And I do feel like, you know, Elo does measure your skill to a certain extent, but not to the full potential, because right now the game is still in beta, and a ranking system is not fair right now as well, because sometimes you get matched up with casual players and sometimes you get matched up with competitive players, and some people don't have a good understanding of the game like you do, because right now Elo is only based off wins. It's not based off, you know, your individual performance. It doesn't take into account how many towers you took down, you know, how many kills you got, you know, if you got a lot of last hits, or, you know, other degrees in which that can measure your skill. Obviously, it's a team game and the winning is the only thing that matters in the end, but sometimes you can only do so much as an individual, and if you get not a good team, then that will suffer as well for you. So I do feel like to an extent it does measure your elo, but to a certain extent it doesn't, you know. So it's kind of like this still needs some fine tuning, I believe, and it's not a true representation, and you shouldn't be focused on that right now, because the game, like I said, is always changing. There's always different things that are being brought into the game, and you know, you could be placed against 5-stack teams as well, which is really big disadvantage because you don't have that coordination or communication like that you would have in a solo queue team. But yeah, I do agree that elo to a certain extent does measure your skill. Now this brings us to another concern, another point that was brought up during the video and the discussion. Basically in the video I go on, when I recall looking back at it, I go on about the meta and how I talk about the meta so much, and how if meta heroes are, you know, people who are using the meta heroes are exploiting the game, and how, you know, people who pick meta heroes, you know, are dickheads or something. And then that wasn't the point I was trying to get across. If anything, I was trying to make the point that yeah, these people think the only way to win is by choosing the meta, but where in fact I was trying to say how people get blinded by this, you know, concept of meta, especially newer players thinking that they can climb up the rank by exposing this meta, and I felt like that kind of overplayed the real message of the video and people got the wrong idea of what I was trying to say. But anyways, it brought up the question of, so is choosing meta toxic, or is it wrong to choose meta? This was brought by Christian Lang. He says, if you want to win in any MOBA, you play the meta rank mode, elo or not. Playing the meta is not exploiting the game. When the stunlock meta ends, some other meta will take over. Nothing is wrong with playing a powerful hero. Draft dodging or getting mad when someone picks a suboptimal hero is a problem though, which was my point of the video. Basically explaining how people are so worried about elo that they think the only way to win, you know, in the game is by choosing meta, where basically that's not how a MOBA works. You know, it works by having certain skill and good team comp and good strategy, not just by the meta. And that what I was talking about. And some people think the only way to climb elo is, you know, exposing or exploiting the meta and bashing other people who don't pick the meta. So that was basically the point of my video, and he does, you know, say that in this comment as well. So he says, but yeah, I will ask people to pick a different hero if my jungler is a Kalari and we do not have any frontline, because team comp matters and drafting is part of what makes a MOBA, which is, I completely agree with that. You know, to a MOBA, there's a lot more aspects that fall into the game just besides picking meta. So don't get blinded by this, you know, this concept of meta and thinking the only way to win is by choosing meta heroes, you know, and whatever. So that's basically the point, and he does, you know, make a good point, and it kind of dilutes the misunderstanding that people were getting from what I was saying when I was going on a big ass rant about meta, but that wasn't the target I was trying to aim for. So this brings us to another point that was brought up during the video, and it is, does picking meta guarantee winning then? And it was brought up by Anthony. He says, I'm almost at diamond rank, and I can say that the meta is not a ticket to a free win. I have a really high win percentage with Seraph and Countess. You can win more with skill than just a stun. Sure, it's harder, but it's also more rewarding. Thank you for making this video. Your opinion matters just as much as a master rank player. Thank you, I appreciate it. And that's exactly my point. Some people think that the way to win is by exploiting the CC meta, and they use it just to, climb up rank. Whereas they bore themselves with repetitive heroes, they think they will win the game, and in turn it just intoxicates themselves and others, and when they choose to bash, other people for not picking quote unquote what is meta. And that's where I think Elo tends to breed toxic behavior, and they fail to realize that the potential of the heroes, and it deprives them of enjoying the game to its full potential because they're so caught up in this concept of Elo and thinking that they have to have a good Elo to win. A lot of new players and a lot of new players fall into that trap. A lot of higher players know that this isn't true, and I completely agree with you, man. I do completely agree with you. So yeah, I feel like to a certain point you shouldn't let Elo control you, and I completely agree with that fact. And that's the point that I want to make in the video, that I was trying to make in the video, and I hope you guys understood that. Some people got the misunderstanding that I was trying to aim for something else, and I kind of did go on a tangent, but that wasn't the point of the video, and I do apologize for that. But yeah, that's the only point I was trying to make in the video is don't let Elo control your experience here in Paragon. All right. Don't let this ranking system get in the way of enjoying the good things about the game, and don't worry about meta. Choose whatever hero you want to play, because at the end of the day, if you're really good at that hero, you will win more games with that hero, not just choosing Sevarog or Rampage. Even though it is the meta to pick them, and yes, it will be harder to win against them if they do have a meta team, but outplaying them can go a really long way, and you shouldn't fall into the trap of trying to exploit the meta for what it is, and you should try to enjoy the game for what it is and not worry about ranking system. So this point that I just made kind of correlates to the question that was brought up, and it's concerning, so I shouldn't care about losing or not wanting to win then. And this kind of correlates to the question left by Your Lost Cousin, and he says, in my opinion, no one cares about Elo. I certainly don't care about any ranking system, but I do care about is winning. I don't care what hero you use, but what I do care about is if you know what you're doing. How many times do I gotta play a game with noobs just feeding the enemy over and over? How many times do I gotta lose because of my unreliable teammates? That shit ain't fun. And a game is supposed to be fun, right? Like I said, people can do whatever they want, but if you're just gonna get in a game and learn the mechanics of or see how the game plays out, just go to a bot game and don't waste my time. Some people are competitive and others aren't, and it's frustrating to play a game where you're always losing. If you consider me a quote-unquote toxic player because of this, then by all means do, because I'd rather be toxic, see the flaws and point them out to make the game great, than to be not a toxic player and see the game slowly fall to the point where no one wants to play it anymore. It ain't fun. I completely agree with you in your frustration. Like, sometimes you get a teammate that just don't know how to play the game. Now, if you were arguing, oh, these people, they're always picking, shitty heroes, then I would be like, well, what do you mean shitty heroes? Any hero could be good to a point if the player behind the controller knows how to, play that hero well. But you're not saying that, obviously. You're saying, people just don't know how to play the role. And yes, that falls into another topic that wasn't really discussed in the video. It's just people don't know how to play the damn role, and I get your frustration. And again, that falls to ranking. I feel like the ranking system is not up to par yet because it's still not official. They haven't released an official ranking system because they're still changing it. They're still adding shit to it, and they can't make that official ranking system yet, because the game still needs to be balanced and certain game mechanics needs to be addressed yet. But I feel like when rank comes out, it'll be a lot different, and you won't get people who are actually not good at the role. So this basically brings up the last fact, and it is bringing a true ranking system into Paragon. Basically, it's brought up by Adam Clements. He says, great video, truth for days. Thank you, I appreciate it. I will say though, I don't think wanting to win is a problem. What I do find a problem is that matchmaking is not where it needs to be, to the point where competitive players are getting frustrated with casuals that are just want to have fun. Having fun as people leaving their lanes, not defending inhibs the right way, and then they tell you to F off, or they go AFK for 5 minutes when you do so, and that's not cool. I agree with that. There needs to be a scene for casuals and a scene for competitive players. We've been on the same boat for far too long, and I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Sometimes, Paragon's been in this state for a long time and we haven't had ranked for a while. And over time, people start getting salty for the mismatch making. And then some people, want to worry about the rank already because they're competitive. So then the only way to look at it is by going to agora.gg. And, then that, concept of Elo kind of breeds toxic behavior when you're fed up with, the matchmaking. And then you're also worried about Elo. So it kind of is like a dual, double whammy for people, and it gets people frustrated, and I completely agree with that. However, I'm not saying it's bad to win. In the video, I'm not saying it's bad to win, and I understand ranks brings a more competitive aspect for a game, and there's no doubt about that. But in the video, I talk about how specific players that think the only way to win is by conforming to the meta, and if other players don't, then they'll act toxic towards them. Then that's a problem. Lack of skill is a completely different topic. I'm just saying at this point, rank shouldn't be the focus on the community, since a game is still unfinished and core gameplay mechanics are still unpolished. And worrying about Elo right now just causes negativity. Eventually, when official rank comes out, there will be casual and then ranked matchmaking. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the final response to the video of the Illusion of Elo. If you haven't seen the video, then go check it out. And I do appreciate everybody for leaving their comments, whether you agree with me or whether you disagree with me. It really opened my mind to this, and it helped me get more informed about this topic. So I appreciate everybody who left their 2 cents in there and was able to just make a good video and a good discussion. That's why I have those discussion videos. I plan to make more of them in the future. If you have any other critical topics or any other videos you want to discuss about, I'll make a video about it, call it in-depth discussion, then we'll have a response video to it. But basically, I just made that video to be able to discuss about it, to have the community discuss about it in the comments. And that's why I called it a discussion with myself and then discussion with you guys. So I do appreciate it. If you did like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on Paragon. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's your boy RapTRz, and I'll see you on Paragon.